Hello YouTube, Jerry Kirkpatrick here. I have been watching the Rolation series done by Ron Covell with much interest. And after the last one that he did on laying out a square to round, it got me thinking about this part here. I found this in a junkyard many years ago. I was looking for some parts for a car that I was building, and I just saw this thing laying on the ground and picked it up and just gave it a once over, didn't think much about it, threw it back on the ground, got the piece that I was after, put it in the truck, started to drive away, and I went back and picked this thing up because I wanted to make this shape. I'd never seen anything like it before. It just intrigued me. So I'd been sitting on this thing for probably 15, maybe 20 years. And after I saw the Rolation portion of Ron's series, I sent him a few pictures of this thing a couple of days after that particular video was out. And I just waited a day. The next day I called him, and he didn't know what the hell I was doing, why I would send him something like that. So I said, how would you like to make this in one of your series? It's a transition from round to oval, and that might be somewhat different. And he said, well, I've been looking at it, and it's a very interesting shape. It would take some thought as to how to make it. And he says, I remember a couple of years ago in Santa Cruz, you said something about doing a collaboration. And he thought this would be the piece that we could do that collaboration with. So after a little back and forth, we finally came up with a shape that would be good for us to make separately. And this is what we finally came up with. It's still 3 inches on the round end, and this end will be 2 inches high, 6 inches wide. So it was decided that the way we could make this a collaboration was to make 2 different parts. I would make the top portion, he would make the bottom portion, and when those are done, they would be welded together. But the first thing was for me to build a hammer form of the shape that we had come up with. And that kind of scared me, in that the last time I had the opportunity to make a, well, at that time it was a plug. I was working for STP, and we took the turbine out of one of the Lotuses and put a flat crank Plymouth in it for Art Pollard and Sam Posey. And one day Vince Granatelli came down, and I saw a big block of styrofoam in my work area, and he handed me a piece of paper with a number on it, and he said, you need to make a nose for the Lotus, and it has to have this many square inches of opening in it in order to get the proper amount of cooling. So I drew up, well, first a square of that number of inches so I could get a visual of what I was dealing with, and then started drawing different shapes. Came up with one, made a cardboard pattern, drew it on this piece of styrofoam, and then removed everything that didn't look like a nose. So building the hammer form for this is going to be a challenge for me. So after I finish the hammer form, I'm going to make two of the top portions of this piece and send it to Ron, and he's going to make two of the bottom portions, and I'm going to make mine with a system called flow forming or hammer forming. And what I'm going to use is a air rivet gun. This is not an air chisel. The rivet gun hits much harder but slower. And what I'm going to do is use a piece that I made many years ago to make the floor pans for a jolly. And this is just a tool that I've modified that I can put different nylon hammers on. So I'm going to have to make 2 or 3 different nylon hammers that will go on this stem to get into different shapes. After I get finished making 2 of the top portions, I'm going to send the buck, the hammer form, and 1 of the tops that I make, and Ron is going to make 2 of the bottom portions. And the way he's going to do that is he's going to use round over dies that he's designed and sells by through Trick Tools. So he's got a set of dies that he will be doing most of the forming with. Finish it off by hand, whatever tools are necessary to get the proper shape. Then he's going to send me 1 of the bottoms. When I get the top and the bottom back together, I'm going to be oxyacetylene welding these aluminum pieces. They'll be made out of 3003-06. So I'll be welding them together with oxyacetylene and then finishing them off until I have a finished piece. Ron, on the other hand, is going to TIG weld his together and finish it off until he has a completed piece. So if you watch both mine and Ron's series, I think I'm going to have 3, Ron will probably have 2, I think. If you watch both series, you will see one particular piece being made in 2 totally different ways. So I think it'll be an excellent series for you to keep up with. I know one of the things when I was talking with Ron, he was quite specific on what type of woods I should be using to make this hammer form out of that would accept the abuse that it will be taking with my air hammer and with the hammering that he will probably be doing to get the proper shapes. So I think what I'll do is give Ron a call and find out what those particular materials were, the woods that he specifically wanted me to use.
This is Ron.
Good morning, Ron. Jerry Kirkpatrick here.
Good morning, Jerry.
How you doing?
I'm doing good.
All right. I'm just about ready to start on that hammer form. And
Yeah.
I know you were quite specific on the types of wood that you wanted me to use.
Well, there's a reason for that. You know, I make a lot of hammer forms out of MDF because it's cheap and flat and it works for most things, but I know you're going to be doing some heavy-duty tuck shrinking, you know, hammering down folds in metal, and the MDF just doesn't hold up to that. So I'd go for some kind of hardwood. You know, what comes to mind first is oak because it's so common. I actually prefer maple because it has a tighter grain structure. But you could use most any hardwood. I mean, you know, the high end is like Cocobolo and Purple Heart, but those are very, very expensive. You actually could use something more inexpensive like poplar or alder, but any hardwood should work.
So which would be preferable?
I'd probably use poplar or alder if it was easily available.
Okay, poplar or alder.
Yeah.
I will do some searching around on the internet, and will that be at a aircraft spruce?
I don't know if they sell solid woods. To my knowledge, they only sell plywood. You know, really fine quality plywood.
Where are those two grown, or where do you think they would be? Where can I get them?
Well, in my little town here, we have just a local building supply with, you know, loads and loads of 2x4s and 4x6s and sheets of plywood, and they have a little bit of alder, so it's not terribly hard to find.
Okay.
I know your town is a little bit smaller than mine, but it's, you know, poplar and alder are sort of inexpensive hardwoods that many building supplies carry.
Okay. I'll look around and see if I can't get some flown in or acquired in some way.
Yeah, that sounds great.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm looking forward to see what you make out of this exotic hardwood.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Jerry. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Now let's see what he does.
Well then, it looks like I better get started on finding some exotics and get them in here. So I guess the next thing to do is look for the wood that I'm going to be making this hammer form out of. So here I am out in front of my barn where I keep all of my exotic woods. And I remember Ron saying that he wanted me to use poplar and alder. And I remembered that several years ago, I had to replace one of the handles on my wheelbarrow, and I had to buy two of them. You buy two at a time. So I have one handle left over, and I'm pretty sure it's alder. In fact, from now on, wheelbarrow handles are alder. So I've got a portion of the material that I need, Let's go over on the other side of the barn and see if I can find what I need out over there. So now I'm on the other side of the barn in front of this stack of oak pallets, and I remember Ron wanted alder and poplar. I think I got pretty lucky in finding those alder handles, and wouldn't you know it, just by luck, right on top of this stack was a poplar pallet. You find them very seldom, but it just so happens I have one right here. So I have now all of the alder cut to length, run through a joiner, and glued together. And the next thing to do is cut the poplar, get it run through the joiner, glued up, and then I'll glue those two pieces together. There's the poplar, the alder for the top portion, and then there'll be the poplar alder for the bottom section, and those will be pinned together. So since this is not a woodworking site by any means, nothing wrong with wood, I just don't do wood. As soon as I get all of that done, where the two parts are together, in the next video, I'll go through all of the steps necessary to come to the final shape. If you'd like to help this channel grow, I'd appreciate it if you would subscribe. Click the bell so you know when my next videos are coming out, and give me a thumbs up. And please consider becoming a Patreon. There's a link below in the description, and I really do appreciate a good cup of coffee. There's a link for that also down in the description. And to everybody that bought me a coffee in that last video, I went right out and purchased 4 of these things. I'm using just one of them right now, and you can see what a difference lighting has made in this video. So thank you very much for watching. Feel free to buy me another coffee. That's it for now. See you later.